What is freedom of press? When we say that a country has freedom of press, we mean that its media and other publications, even individual citizens, have the right to communicate information without influence or fear of reprisals from the states or other powerful entities or individuals. We often use the term free press or independent journalists more or less interchangeably. In modern history, in 1948, the United Nations developed a common understanding of principle of freedom of the press. Article 19 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights codifies it together with the right of freedom of expression.
The reason why I believe that the freedom of press is violated in our country is because we have a long record of corrupt politicians who make that news about themselves or problems related to them that it is not convenient for them to be public cannot be propagated in the news and newspapers. They achieve this in very cowardly ways by assassinating any journalist who obtains information that could harm them, as a last resort and extremist alternative to censorship. That is why there are so many records of journalists murdered or disappeared in mysterious circumstances.
For several years, Mexico has been recognized as one of the most dangerous countries in the world to practice journalism. The statistics from the authorities on the number of victims are impressive and inconsistent since there is a black figure due to the very silence of the victims and members of the family who do not report the harassment due to the distrust they have in the authorities or by threats to which they are subjected.
The Special Prosecutor for Attention to Crimes Committed Against Freedom of Expression of Attorney General's Office, PGR, registered 102 homicides of journalists from January 2000 to April 30, 2014, while during the same period of time the National Human Rights Commission, the CNDH, registered the death of 88 journalist workers in the journalist sector, murdered presumably because of their work. Also, from 2005 to date, it has also documented the disappearance of 20 information professionals, as well as 41 attacks on the media facilities from 2006 to date. Events that occur obviously in 24 federal entities around the country. Not to mention that we all know that it's a triple censorship mechanism from the government, since it's the allocation of government contracts for official advertising to the media. The practice corresponds to the authorities that were to punish the media according to their editorial lines. There is no legal or political framework to demand transparency in the criteria used by the government for the allocation of advertising contracts, and from 2002 to date, 13 bills have been presented to the Congress of the Union without having been approved. This even though President Enrique Peña Nieto promised during the administration to regulate official advertising. So, well, it's strange. Faced with such context, there are no serious signs of change, neither in the regulatory framework for the use of official advertising, not in practices. As well, we have to admit there is a little interest in regulating the allocation of public resources, because this business is very lucrative and from which is not only individuals but also officials benefit from the lack of regulation and transparency, and more taking into account that the centralized and parasitical federal administration exists like 4,195.8 millions of pesos in this area only in 2014, and these amounts are only going up. So what can we do?
I will present our proposal. We would like to propose starting a campaign on social networks aimed to my colleagues who decide to study or are studying journalism. This so that a new wave of publications is generated that stays away from sensationalist and above all titles and sensationalist publications, lacking in truth and respect. In addition, leaving aside the red notes that we can see that our country is flooded with this type of complete newspapers and pages full of morbidity, tragedy, and without censorship that unfortunately are available to all audiences, including children. Many times, they generate a certain type of resentment towards those who write them and publish them. We firmly believe that a youth with ideas based on respect and useful information can change the sometimes mistaken vision of press freedom. This will ensure that there can be respected journalists and useful publications that help Mexico to be a better country.